Aristotle tried to understand almost everything. He studied animals, politics, poetry, memory, happiness, and even why people laugh. More than 2,000 years later, many of the questions he asked still shape the way we understand the world. But Aristotle did not begin as a famous philosopher. He began as a young boy from a small Greek city, searching for answers. So, how did one man become one of the most influential thinkers in human history? Aristotle was born in 384 BCE in Stagira, an ancient Greek city. His father, Nicomachus, worked as a physician connected to the royal court of Macedonia. Growing up around medicine may have encouraged Aristotle's early interest in nature, the human body, and how living things worked. But both of his parents died while he was still young. In 367 BCE, when Aristotle was around 17 years old, he traveled to Athens. There he joined Plato's Academy, the most famous school of philosophy in Greece. Plato believed that the world people could see was only an imperfect version of a higher, ideal reality. Aristotle respected his teacher, but he did not agree with everything Plato believed. Aristotle wanted to study the real world in front of him. He believed knowledge should begin with careful observation. He examined plants, animals, governments, and human behavior, searching for patterns in everything he saw. Aristotle remained at the academy for around 20 years. Then, in 347 BCE, Plato died. Aristotle left Athens and continued traveling, teaching and studying. During the following years, he spent time near the island of Lesbos. There he examined fish, shellfish, and other sea creatures, recording how different animals lived, reproduced, and developed. Then around 343 BCE, Aristotle received an extraordinary invitation. King Philip II of Macedonia asked him to educate his young son. That son was Alexander, who would later become Alexander the Great. Aristotle taught the prince literature, philosophy, politics, medicine, and science. Alexander later went on to command armies and conquer enormous territories. But Aristotle eventually returned to Athens to build something of his own. In 335 BCE, he founded a school called the Lyceum. Aristotle often taught while walking with his students through the school's covered pathways. Together, they discussed logic, ethics, politics, theater, biology, and the nature of the universe. Aristotle believed that a good life was not built through pleasure, wealth, or fame alone. It came from developing strong character, making wise choices, and finding balance between extremes. Courage, for example, stood between cowardice and recklessness. Aristotle described this search for balance as the golden mean. For around 12 years, he taught, researched, and collected knowledge at the Lyceum. But in 323 BCE, Alexander the Great died. Anti-Macedonian anger quickly spread through Athens. Because Aristotle had been connected to the Macedonian royal family, he became a target. He was accused of disrespecting the gods, the same kind of accusation that had once been made against Socrates. Rather than remain in Athens and risk execution, Aristotle left the city. He reportedly said that he would not allow Athens to sin against philosophy twice. 1 year later, in 322 BCE, Aristotle died at around 62 years old. Many of his original writings were eventually lost, but the works that survived influenced scholars for centuries. Aristotle did not have every answer. Some of his scientific ideas were later proven wrong, but his greatest lesson was not that he understood everything. It was that everything could be questioned, observed, and understood more deeply. Aristotle spent his life studying the world. In the process, he taught the world how to think.